Welcome, dear students. Today we need to get starting in the chapter 3 and reproduction in the living organism, studying the structure of the female reproductive organ and the processes of oogenesis, and also how can we differentiate between the formation of the sperms and the formation of the ovum. Let's go down in our lesson today. Well, the structure and adaptation of the sperm, how they are adapted, okay, to reach the female organ. Okay, the head. The head of the sperm, it contains the nucleus, which includes half of genetic materials, which is in human 23 chromosomes. The full genetic material, they are excellent 46 chromosomes, but in case of sperm it contains 23, and in case of ovum also it contains what? 23, half of genetic material. And also it contains a chromosome to secrete hyaluronic enzyme to dissolve parts of ovum membrane. What does it mean? A chromosome, it is a hormone we need, our enzyme, we need it to secrete something called hyaluronic enzyme. This enzyme, it has ability to dissolve what? The coat that covers the female ovum, and this cover or this coat is very thick, and it's made up of an acid which is called hyaluronic acid. Okay, and we need this coat is degenerated and dissolved by using what? Hyaluronic enzymes. So the head of the nucleus, head of the sperm, it contains hyaluronic enzyme to dissolve part of the ovum membrane. After that, to facilitate its penetration also process. This is a function. The neck, it contains two centrioles which play an important role in the fertilization of ovum division. This is what? This is the neck. And the midpiece, which contains mitochondria, and I need you to remember that mitochondria, it's related to it, related to the power, related to the energy. They are houses of storing energy. So when I'm going to talk about the mitochondria, so they need what? Yes, supply the sperms by energy required for its journey, for its sperm movement. Finally, the tail. It contains what? An axis ends with caudal piece. Caudal piece means the part of the tail that helps the sperm to move. So we have head and mid piece and neck, and finally what? The tail, which ends by a caudal piece. Those are parts of the sperm, or as we discussed it, we mentioned it, a kind of what? Adaptation of the sperm for reaching to the ovum. And also the tail, it helps the sperm to move and to reach to the female ovum. And this is structure of the sperm under microscope on the left side, while on the right side it's a diagram for it. It consists of head, which contains a chromosome, and the chromosome, as we said, who can remind me, it contains something called what? Yes, hyaluronic enzymes to dissolve the what? The coat that surround the ovum. And also neck, midpiece, and finally tail, or that ends by caudal piece, to help the sperm in its movement. After that, we need to know the structure and function of female genital system. We studied in the last time the structure of male. Right now we're going to start the female genital system. Its function: formation of ova, and provides the safe place for embryonic development, okay, for keeping the fetus or embryo in the safe place for its growing. And also secretion the female hormones like estrogen and progesterone hormones. They are required for appearance of secondary female features or characters, and also they are important in what? In not only the secretion of female hormones, but they are important for production of milk after that, and production a lot of importance inside the female, such as what? Menstrual cycle, enlargement of breast, soften of voice. Those are called what? The female secondary features or female secondary sex characters. Well, it locates in what? Where is its location? It lies behind the urinary bladder of the female and the pelvic cavity. And the pelvic cavity, the cavity comes from the pelvis. If you remember in the skeletal system we studied before, the pelvis, it is in the lower part in our body. Also, the organs are firmly connected in this position. I mean, they are fixed tightly together with elastic ligaments, okay, which allow its expansion during the pregnancy. It's very important to know it. What about the structure of the female genital organ? Well, it consists of, number one, 2 ovaries. They are found their site on the side of the pelvic cavity, on the both sides of the pelvic cavity, but inside the body, okay? The shape and size of the 2 ovaries, they are oval as peeled almond. Do you know the one almond? It looks like a peeled almond. So they are very small. They are not large. What about the function of the 2 ovaries? And by the way, the 2 ovaries, they are 2 glands. Function, production of ovum, and they secrete the female hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and also for regulating the menstrual cycle and embryonic development. Okay? Number 2, fallopian tubes. 2 fallopian tubes. So we said number 1, it consists of 2 ovaries. Okay? They lie inside the body on the 2 sides of the pelvic cavity. Number 2, 2 fallopian tubes. They are located in what site? Lies just opposite to the ovary to ensure the fall of the ovum inside it. Okay, and by the way, the fallopian tube, they carry the ripen or the mature ova from the ovary, okay, to reaching it to the uterus. After that, we have the shape of the fallopian tubes. Each oviduct has a funnel-shaped opening. It provides with the fingers-like processes to receive the ovum. And you just imagine that you have a funnel shape or finger-like when the ovum is shooted from when the ova or ovum, they are shooted from the ovary, they need something to hold it. So the holder here that we have, the fallopian tubes, okay? So they have each duct or oviduct has a funnel shape to at the starting of the opening, they are provided with the finger-like processes to receive the ovum. What about the function of the fallopian tube? Actually, they lined with the cilia to direct the ovum directly to the uterus for fertilization, to accomplish the fertilization process. Okay. Number 3. So we studied, as we said, in the female genital organ, we said what? 2 ovaries, 2 fallopian tubes. Number 3, the uterus. It is an elastic muscular organ that lies in the pelvic cavity. And I know that you know its function. And also it has thick muscular wall that lined with the glandular membrane. The lower portion or the lower part of the uterus called cervix end with the final parts in the female genital system, which is vagina. Okay? The uterus, the embryo is formed inside it, and it spends about 9 months. We are talking about the human female. Don't forget it. The embryo is formed inside the uterus for 9 months. Vagina, it is the last organ that we have. We said again, ovary, 2 fallopian tubes, uterus, and finally vagina. It is elastic, muscular, folded tube that extend from cervix, the lower portion, to the genital opening. Its length about 7 centimeters. The folds of the vagina, it expands during delivery, during the delivery of the baby, to facilitate the passage of the baby. Okay? One of the most important functions of the vagina. And also it lined with the glandular membrane that secretes mucus fluid to moisten the vagina from inside. This is a form of female genital system. As we said, it consists of 2 ovaries, okay, and they are faced by the 2 funnel. They are extended from the 2 fallopian tubes, and each fallopian tube, they are lined with the cilia, which carry the ova to reach it safely to the uterus. And after that, the uterus itself, we consider it as an elastic and thick, a very important organ that carries the babies. Finally, we have the lower part, which is called cervix, and end by vagina, which the elastic organ that has a lot of folds, and also it lined from inside by glandular cells. Number 2, we need, as we studied the spermatogenesis, we have on the other side in the female stages of oogenesis, or formation of ovum, how they are formed inside the female body. Well, number 1, we have multiplication phase. Okay, they look like each other. Number 1, multiplication phase. The primary germ cells, okay, inside the ovary that line the ovary divide by what? By mitotic division to produce what? Oogonia. Both of them, the primary germ cells, they are divided mitotically to give us what? Oogonia. There is no any change right now. We have both of them diploid, both of them carry, both of them what? Somatic cells carry the full of genetic materials. Yet this phase occurs in the embryo, before delivery of the female. Remember that the multiplication phase, it happens what? Inside the embryo of the female. Okay, she's still inside her mother's uterus. Growth phase, second one. Multiplication phase, it occurs and happens inside in the embryo of the female. The second one, the growth phase. The oogonia store an amount of food, okay, till it increases in the size, and it transforms into what? Into something called primary oocyte, and they are also somatic cells. They carry the full of genetic materials, diploid, twin. This phase, growth phase, occurs in what? In the female embryo also. Remember that the first phase, multiplication phase, it happens what? Inside the female embryo. Growth phase happens also in the female embryo. Remember, because we're going to change the sequence right now. Third one, which is maturation phase. Again, first and second phases are happened in the what? In the female embryo. Third one, maturation phase. Focus here. The primary oocyte undergoes meiosis 1 to produce what? Secondary oocyte and first polar body. Okay? After that, both of them are haploid. They carry half of genetic material, but the secondary oocyte is a bigger in size than the first polar body. Okay? While the secondary oocyte undergoes meiosis meiosis 2 and giving what? The ovum and second polar body. So we have what? First polar body, and after that, when the secondary oocyte undergoes meiosis 2, it gives what? Giving the ovum and the second polar body. Okay? The polar body itself divides to form two polar bodies. Okay? Well, all of that happens inside maturation phase. So there are what? The final result that we have, 3 polar bodies are produced after delivery. Okay? And after that, we can get the final one, which is what? The egg or the ovum. And this is the sequence of oogenesis of the female. Okay? The first, second, and third phase, they are happen what? Most of them happen in the female embryo. Okay, the oogenium, which gives us first oocyte to N, and after that the second oocyte, which is produces by, or they are divided mitotically to gives us the 3 polar bodies. They are still found inside the female. After that, it gives us what? The egg that we needed. The structure of the ovum. Well, to study the structure of the ovum, as we studied the structure of the sperm, it contains what? A cytoplasm and haploid nucleus. Like the sperm, it contains 23 chromosomes. It is also enveloped with thin cellular coat. Envelope is mean covered, coated, okay, with a very thin what? Cellular coat. The cells are held together with the hyaluronic acid. Remember that. We said that in case of sperms, the acrosome contains something called hyaluronic enzymes. Okay? Remember this information. Well, the cells here are held together with what? Hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is dissolved by what? Yes, by acrosome enzymes of sperms. So the main function of the hyaluronic acid in the female to cover and to protect the ovum inside it. On the other side, we need to protect it, so we need what? Enzyme to dissolve it. Where is the enzyme we can get it? The enzyme is found in the acrosome of the sperms. So millions of sperms are required and needed to penetrate the ovum. And why we need millions of sperms? Because each of them, it carries and contains just a very, very tiny amount of the hyaluronic enzymes. So the millions of sperms, they are trying to dissolve the hyaluronic acid that coated the ovum for what? For reaching the nucleus and to fertilize it. After that, we need to study that transverse section in the ovary, as we studied it in what? In the tests. Group of cells in different stages. 1. Ovum inside the Graafian follicle also. This follicle is transformed into what? Something called corpus luteum after releasing the ovum. Okay, again, we have the follicle. This follicle, or this layer, is transformed into what? It changes into something called corpus luteum. It has an important function in the formation of oogenia. After what? The release the ovum. Well, this is a TS in the ovary. that we are show what the ovum and the corpus luteum, okay, which as you observe it in the screen. Female life can be divided into following stages. We can divide into what? Into more than one stage. Number one, childhood. In the childhood, the ovary, it contains what? Thousands of ova at different stages, okay? And after that, the puberty. The puberty starts at age from 12 to 15 years of maturity. Monthly rhythmic changes that takes place or they happen in the uterus and the ovary, okay, within this period of time, 12 to 15 years of maturity. After that, we have the fecundity period. It could what? Fecundity period, which is what? It is the period between puberty to the menopause, about 30 years. And I'm going to give you some information about menopause, okay? It is the age at which the female cannot produce any more of the ovum. During this period of fecundity, the ovary is very active and can produce ova under the effect of hormones, okay, and also produced by pituitary glands. Okay, the fecundity period, the uterus is ready for receiving the embryo. It is a suitable period and suitable time for receiving embryo or fetus, formation of embryo and fetus inside the uterus. And for your information, about 400 ova can be produced in the whole life of the female. It can produce only just a 400 ova can be produced, okay? After that, we have something called menopause period. The menopause period starts from 45 years and more. After 50 years, it may be sometime more than that, till the end of the life, and there is no menstruation. Menstruation means there is no menstrual cycle, okay? I mean there is no any formation or production of ova from the female at this time or this period of time. And if any ovum is formed, it will be very weak. The uterus shrinks and cannot receive the embryo, okay? After that, the hormonal secretions decreased and there is no, as we said, no ova are formed. The uterine walls is wrinkled. Wrinkled is mean that they are gonna be also shrink. After that, we have something called which is breeding cycle. What is the breeding cycle? It is a regular period in the life of placental mammals in which the ovary becomes active in the adult female and coincide at the same time, okay, with the sexual function of mating and production of ovum. We have here also differs in the various mammals. We have some information of formation of ova or menstrual cycle in different mammals. Let's figure it out. For examples, in lion and tiger, the menstrual cycle are annual. I mean, each 1 year the female can form, okay, the mature female that can form just only one ripe ovum each 1 year, okay? While cats and dogs, 2 cycles per year. The mature female can form 2 ovum per the whole year, okay? Rabbits and rats each month. In human and higher monkeys, the typical is 28 days, okay? And they are called menstruation cycle or menstrual cycle, which is associated and related with 2 ovaries alternate with each other to produce mature ovum. What does it mean, alternation? I mean if we have here, we have two ovaries. Okay, in this month, the first ovary, it produces the ripe ovum. Okay, in the second month, it will be rest at this month, and the other ovary, it will produce the second one. This is mean of they are alternate to each other to produce mature ovum. Well, the phases of menstrual cycle, it's a very important and focus here. Number one, the proliferation phase of the menstrual cycle. In this phase, it takes about 10 days. Takes about what? 10 days. What happens inside it? It started from the pituitary gland. We need a kind of activator. The pituitary gland secretes what? The follicle stimulating hormone. It secretes what? Follicle stimulating hormone. This hormone, it stimulates or activates ovary to form what? To form something called Graafian follicle, the mature Graafian follicle, okay? And after that, the follicle produces estrogen hormone to what? To stimulate the growth of endometrial. What does it mean, endometrium or endometrial? It is the inner wall that lined the uterus, okay? That to prepare it for receiving an embryo. Number two, ovulation. It takes about 14 days. The anterior lobe of pituitary gland secretes what? Luteinizing hormone. Do you remember that from the first chapter? Yes, this is called what? Luteinizing hormone. So we have what? Number one, we are activated already the Graafian follicle. Number two, we need to activate luteinizing hormone. Okay, all of that under the effect of pituitary gland. The luteinizing hormone stimulates what? The liberation of mature ovum from the ovary. This hormone, it's responsible for formation and activation the mature ovary to form inside the ovary. The Graafian follicle is converted into corpus luteum, okay, that secretes estrogen hormone and progesterone hormones. To do in what? To increase the thickness of endometrium or endometrial wall. I mean that, as we said, the endometrial is the what? Is the inner wall that covered and lined what? That lining the uterus. Okay, so Graafian follicle, it converts into something called corpus luteum that secretes both hormones, estrogen and progesterone, to increase the thickness of the endometrium and it increases its blood supply. After that, the menstruation phase, it takes it from 3 to 5 days only, okay? The blood vessels tear due to successive contraction of the uterus. If the ovum isn't fertilized yet, within 1 or 2 days maximum after ovulation, the corpus luteum, it degenerates gradually, okay? And secretion of progesterone stops. The progesterone hormone is secretion, it already stops. After that, the endometrium degenerates and leaves the body in form of menstruation or menstrual cycle. Finally, I hope you get information about the structure of your body and how can you comprehend and understand the differences between male and female in the structure organs and their sexual organs. See you the next time.